Halloween's over. That means it's Christmas time. No other holidays in between. Nice little Spongebob Christmas sweater.
Yeah.
Hello, my beautiful people. And today, yesterday, I saw the Spongebob movie, Sponge on the Run. Film that I was supposed to see 6 months ago, but obviously due to COVID, it got delayed to July. Then it got delayed to August. Then it was said that it wasn't coming out in America at all till early 2021, but it would be in theaters in Canada in August. Then it was released internationally on Netflix about a week ago. And there is still not a confirmed release date for when it's going to arrive in America. What the frick, Viacom? But anyway, yeah, I saw the third SpongeBob movie after years and years of waiting to see what this film has to offer. And even longer due to all the delays. Was it worth it? No. The film wasn't bad, but it's not as good as the previous two movies, I must say. And screw you, I really enjoyed Sponge Out of Water. I don't care what any of you guys say, Sponge Out of Water is as good and maybe even better than the first movie. I'm just gonna say it. But anyway, what is this movie about? The film is about Gary getting kidnapped by King Poseidon. And by Gary getting kidnapped by King Poseidon, I mean Plankton kidnapped King Poseidon to give him to Gary so that Plankton can easily steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula because SpongeBob will be out of the way to rescue Gary because SpongeBob has been the one to make Plankton's plans. But the whole Plankton crap really is not very necessary most of the time. Like to the point where after Gary gets captured, Plankton's not very necessary for the film. Krabs straight up offers Plankton the Krabby Patty secret formula because he's so depressed because SpongeBob's gone and he can't eat the Krabby Patties. And and to quote him, "I just missed the boy." Obviously, from the day one of when the plot was revealed, everybody has been complaining on how the plot is similar to a season 4 episode of the show, Have You Seen This Snail? If you want to know my thoughts on the episode, I'll leave a link in the description below to part 2 of my movie Marathon Madness on the SpongeBob specials, where I talk about that episode, along with The Sponge Who Could Fly, Dunces and Dragons, and Friend or Foe. Now, anyway, the fact that it's similar to an episode of the show isn't really a bad thing. In fact, the second movie had lots of elements that were similar to episodes of the show, even elements that were similar to the first movie. Like Sponge on the Run had key points from Fun, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5, and Pressure. Now, this film has key points from the first movie and Have You Seen the Snail? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But the Phineas and Ferb movies have actually proven that just because your movie is similar to one random episode of the show, it doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. It's mainly what you do with that concept. In this case, Gary is missing, and see what you do with it. And I think they did alright with the story. Now let's talk about one of the elephants in the room. The Camp Coral side. Now, if you don't know, Nickelodeon and CBS All Access have a spin-off of SpongeBob SquarePants in the works called Camp Coral, which will follow all of the main characters from the show at summer camp when they were kids. despite the fact that Mr. Krabs is supposed to be it's a few years older than SpongeBob. Like, enough to date Mrs. Puff, who is the counselor in, or the head of the chef, or the head of the camp in Camp Coral. And presumably Mr. Krabs is viewed as like, I don't know what Mr. Krabs is supposed to be. I think Mr. Krabs is supposed to be older, but I don't know, man. I don't know. And the obvious retcons that the show has played. Now, early on, it stated that SpongeBob met Gary at Camp Coral, that Gary was a stray. Although, despite the fact that in the season 9 episode Plankton's Pet, SpongeBob says that he adopted Gary at the shelter. Now, I can let that slide because that statement was from one random episode in the 9th season, and the writers probably just forgot about that one statement. What I can't forgive is the fact that Sandy and Mr. Krabs are a part of this. As everybody knows, Sandy is from Texas. Time and time again, the show says that the reason Sandy is even in Bikini Bottom to begin with is to study underwater behavior amongst the sea creatures, and that SpongeBob didn't meet Sandy till they were older, like, 20s or whatever. Or however old SpongeBob is supposed to be, though apparently he's 13 by the time the first episode comes out. Weird. That they never acknowledge that Mr. Krabs was in the Navy, and that SpongeBob was the one who gave Mr. Krabs the idea to open up his own restaurant. When really, ever since season 5, it's been explained that Plankton and Krabs worked together, and Krabs got the idea for the Krusty Krab himself when he created the Krabby Patties by accident. The show has done some retcons before. Most notably, for me, a notable example is the episode Just One Bite. Squidward says he's never eaten a Krabby Patty before, but in the season 2 premiere, Your Shoes Untied, we see Squidward be force-fed a bunch of Krabby Patties. And in the episode Are You Happy Now, Squidward says that he's never had a happy memory, when time and time again we see Squidward be happy, particularly in the episode Band Geeks, which we have a Funko Pop of. So the show has done some retcons before, but nothing that is huge like these. And the fact that this is supposed to be a backdoor pilot for a series, we have seen what the show would look like before, and is it just me, or is the official art for the Camp Coral series kind of looks like Fanboy and Chum Chum?
I don't know.
And let's also get to the obvious fact that Steven Hillenburg, the creator of the show, did not want any spin-offs, and most notably, did not want SpongeBob to be a kid. Because in his words, it would just be Hey Arnold underwater. Or in this case, since it takes place at the summer camp, it will just be Camp Lazlo underwater. Let's move on from the Camp Coral bits. And let's talk about another jarring thing that this movie has been doing, and that's have modern references throughout most of it. Now, here's the thing. SpongeBob has had some modern references in the past. A few years ago, they did an episode on self-driving boatmobiles, or self-driving cars in the real world. Well, in this movie, they go full out on modern references, particularly with the soundtrack. We have Weezer as our opening montage song. And we also have such timeless hits like the Viva Loca, On the Road Again, and Take On Me. The fact that those songs exist in SpongeBob and that SpongeBob and Patrick actually sing Living the Viva Loca, it's weird. I expect this type of stuff in Shrek, but not in SpongeBob. And the Keanu Reeves Sage Tumbleweed mentions Skype and FaceTime. God, this is Scoob all over again, isn't it? Not to say that this movie is as bad as Scoob was. My God, that movie sucked. But I am definitely getting a bit of similarities, kinda. Now let's get to what was actually pretty controversial when people first heard about it. The animation. Now, many people have been pissed that the film wouldn't feature the traditional animation that was seen in the show. The computer animation was a big selling point and Sponge Out of Water, so naturally, the next big step for a SpongeBob movie would to make the entire thing, with the exception of the live action scenes, computer animated. And
it's actually really good computer animation.
It continued the tradition that films such as the Peanuts movie and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse tried to do. Take the 2D designs of the characters and make them seamlessly in computer animation. Not to the point where it looks or nearly looks like 2D, but to the point where they did a dang good job of translating it. Gone are the days of Timmy Turner looking like a freaking monster in the world of Jimmy Neutron.
I'm loopy.
It doesn't look as good as your average Disney or Pixar movie. In fact, the budget is around the same as an Illumination movie, but for the budget that they had, it's actually really good. And for the character access, and for the designs, they went for quality over quantity, because there are a lot of repeated character models, but the models that they do have look really good, and they translate the 2D designs to CG flawlessly. The cartoony humor that they were able to do on the show looks flat out amazing in CG. I'm very curious on how Camp Coral will translate the cartoony as frick humor that the show has been doing a lot recently into computer animation on a television budget. Now let's get to the characters. For the most part, the characters act like themselves. They're exactly the same lovable type of characters that you would expect. And they do a great job of trying to introduce the characters to a new audience who don't really necessarily know who SpongeBob or Patrick or Squidward are. And nearly all of the main characters from the show get some time to spot in the spotlight. Mainly SpongeBob and Patrick. Let's get into some of the new characters. There's a robot named Otto, who's voiced by Aquafina, that Sandy built to be a worker at the Krusty Krab, and she sells it to Mr. Krabs. But her gimmick is that she keeps on firing everyone, and she fires Mr. Krabs. So Mr. Krabs throws her into the garbage, and Plankton picks it up and makes it his own. And she's basically just SpongeBob and Patrick's Uber driver. Surprised they didn't make a reference to Uber, since Keanu Reeves makes references to Skype and FaceTime. And speaking of Keanu Reeves, he plays a character named Sage. He's a sage, and he is made a sage. By that, he lives in a tumbleweed. Now, Keanu Reeves has been getting a bit of a boost lately with the John Wick movies and Toy Story 4 and Cyberpunk 2079. Man, I guess Bill and Ted Face the Music. But I feel like Keanu Reeves in this film gets a bit more of his old way of acting, where he just looks bored and confused and doesn't really know what to do. Not the fun and entertaining Keanu Reeves that we've been getting a lot lately. So Keanu Reeves just looks a bit confused most of the time, which I get fits with the character, because because Sage is mostly just tired of SpongeBob and Patrick's bullcrap and just wants them to do the thing right, and thinks that they're stupid. So really, he's basically just a calmer Squidward. Yeah, Sage is SpongeBob and Patrick's spiritual guidance. Now, let's go ahead and get to some of the other live-action characters. Now, Danny Trejo plays the leader of a gang of zombie cowboy pirates. This stuff is only in one scene in the movie. It's arguably pointless, but it introduces Sage, so it's kinda necessary. Not really. And it leads to a musical number with Snoop Dogg in it. Snoop Dogg leads a bunch of dancing zombie pirate cowboys. I don't know. Yeah. Snoop Dogg is fine, I guess. And Danny Trejo was fine, I guess. Like, wow. I get that SpongeBob has his weird and nonsensical moments a lot, but zombie cowboy pirates with Snoop Dogg and Danny Trejo, that's a bit much, don't you think? Even for SpongeBob. And now we have the villain of the film, King Poseidon, who is exactly the same as King Neptune from the first movie. We have 3 versions of this character in this universe. There's King Neptune from the show, King Neptune from the movie, and King Poseidon. And according to this marvelous piece of artwork, the 2 versions of King Neptune are canonically different characters. I guess Poseidon is his own separate character as well. I wonder if they'll make an episode explaining that. Please, can that be an episode? So, yeah. His personality is exactly the same as King Neptune from the first movie. But throughout the entire movie, I was thinking, this guy's voice sounds familiar. I don't know the actor's name, but who was he? Well, I then figured out that this guy voiced the pig in Disenchantment, and he did Bubbles, the talking dolphin, from Sponge on the Run. You had the same actor who isn't really a voice actor, so he can't disguise it very well, like Tom Kenny or Doug Lawrence do. And you have him play a different character in another movie. I don't know why they did that, but I guess they did. And further proof that King Neptune and King Poseidon are the same character. King Poseidon's also bald. And lastly, I would like to get into the songs, the few that there are. First, let's talk about the cowboy song, the one with the zombies and stuff. Yeah. Moving on. I'm not that big of a fan of Snoop Dogg, so moving on. We have The Secret to the Formula is You, which I actually really like that song. I think it's kind of beautiful, really. We had Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and Plankton sing about how great of a friend SpongeBob can be. I guess Patrick doesn't really get to join into the fun because even though he's his best friend, I don't freaking know, man. But yeah, it's a nice song, and you can tell that the voice actors put a lot of love and effort into the song. And then we have the closing song, which was written exclusively for the film, Agua. Which, if you want to know my thoughts on, I'll leave a link in the description for my reaction to the music video. So, and at the very end, in the end credits, there's there's a jazz version of Have You Seen the Snail? Or Gary Come Home from the episode Have You Seen the Snail? Presumably done by the jazz performer Kelby G, which is really the only reason Squidward went on the journey, not to save SpongeBob, but to see Kelby G in action. That's in character. That's funny. I like that. And I guess Plankton just went because he was bored. So, what are my overall thoughts of this movie? It's okay. Definitely the weakest of all of the SpongeBob movies. And I watched the Nintendo video before I started filming this, and he brought up an interesting point. This film is the truth or square of the SpongeBob movies. And that makes way too much sense not to be true. Because just think about it. It feels a lot more like it was executively ordered and not a creative decision. It has no idea what it wants to be half the time, and it has a bunch of pointless celebrities and flashbacks. Now, obviously, I think that this is better than Truth or Square. Truth or Square is an awful episode, and we'll get to that soon in the movie Marathon Madness on the SpongeBob specials. That's going to get its own video, mainly because of how long it is. But it definitely is the weaker of the trilogy. Who would I recommend this movie to? Well, if you enjoy SpongeBob, then you might get a kick out of it. Now, I could only really recommend this to die-hard SpongeBob fans, like casual SpongeBob fans who are a genuine film audience might not enjoy it as much, but I definitely would not call it a bad movie. I'd say it's okay. Not great, not bad. It's okay. It's definitely not as good as most, if not everything else that this franchise has been popping out lately. Seriously, I mean, the newer seasons, the second movie, the musical, and the remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom have all been fantastic in my opinion. And so, it's surprising that this movie is the odd one out on just being okay. And if that is the worst that this franchise can offer lately, then I'm just going to say, I've high hopes for Camp Coral. I mean, if Camp Coral would continue to have the same art style from the movie, and it would have the same writing staff from the show, then I'd say we could be in the works for a decent show. Maybe not great or fantastic or worth getting like a second season or anything, but definitely only goes above the lines of watchable. But as for the movie, I would recommend it for a visual experience alone. If you just want to have some SpongeBob fun, give it a look. Definitely not classics, in my opinion, as the first two, but a decent waste of time. I don't know if it will be worth getting a VPN service just to watch this freaking movie, but I'd say just wait till it comes out in CBS All Access next year, which will most likely be renamed to Paramount Plus by the time it comes out. And yes, SpongeBob Month 3 will be happening the month Sponge on the Run comes out in America. The only problem is nobody knows when that will be, so I can't schedule anything yet. Thanks, Viacom! But anyway, that is my thoughts on the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. What did you guys think of this movie if you managed to see it? Please let me know down in the comments below. And are you looking forward to either of the two movies that are in the works for Netflix? The two SpongeBob movies? Yeah, because apparently those are still happening, I guess. Please let me know. Also, be sure to leave a like on this video if you did enjoy it. And click that big ol' red subscribe button and ring the bell right next to the subscribe button to be notified on when my videos will be uploaded. And I will see you later. Bye!